not.
Thank the Force. It's Thursday night for Star Wars Newsnet Live, and gentlemen, I have to be honest that I don't think we've ever had this combination for a Star Wars news. Have we had the three of us?
Yeah.
Have we?
It hasn't been that long.
It's been a long time if we haven't.
Yeah.
Like
It's been a few months, but we've definitely had it before.
Yeah.
Maybe like it had to have been a long time. We need to search the archives and figure out when it was the three of us combination. I don't know. I feel like it's been a long time.
I mean, it was definitely this year. I remember Nate coming on like 10 minutes before we recorded and saying, "So what are we talking about today?"
Okay, now I remember. I think that may have been the one where it was we're coming in with like our Star Wars like predictions or something for the summer.
In my defense, I was not supposed to be on that week.
Exactly.
And then something happened. I had to rewrite all my plans. I had no thoughts at all prepared. Right. So in my defense.
So my name is Tyler, joined by my good friends Miguel and Nate for tonight's Star Wars Newsnet Live. And we have all of the exciting, positive vibe things to talk about tonight. Unfortunately, I am kidding because that's actually not true at all. Some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit, I don't know, it's like a scary, dark road I think we're going on. And I'm going to count on Nate and Miguel. I'm going to count on you guys to guide me through all of this so I don't reach the pit of despair. And I say that as someone who drove here like straight from like grad school where they forced me to look at spreadsheets and data and numbers at like 8 o'clock. And I'm sitting here going, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm just typing. So I'm going to need some positive vibes to get me out of the dark abyss. But I have to say real quick that Nate, I am sorry. I have not read your Tears of the Nameless review yet because I wanted to go in completely blind to this book. So I will be finishing this tonight as soon as we get done with this. And then I will go straight over to Star Wars Newsnet to read your review, which I encourage everyone to go read. Nate, before we get into this Variety article that published today, I do want to give you like the platform to just share something quick about that book in your review though, while we're here.
Me? Tears of the Nameless, the latest High Republic book by George Mann, who is on a heck of a run right now between that and Echoes of Fear, his new comic book series that kind of is a sequel series to Tears of the Nameless. They go very much hand in hand. And yeah, George Mann, he's always been the guy that you kind of go to for like the deep ancient lore and history and expanding on that stuff. And Tears really gets into that stuff with the Jedi and their mission to beat the Nameless and whatnot. But as far as like the actual book in my review, I didn't get into a whole lot of spoilers because I didn't really want to spoil anything. It's a tough book to talk about without talking spoilers. So I'm excited that you're about to finish it, Tyler. So we could talk about it. And
it's the hard part about doing those reviews is when you read it and then you read it a month before everyone else has it, and so you just kind of have to sit on it. And this is one of those books where
we didn't get copies of that book. So I like a few days before, Barnes and Noble sometimes puts books out early, and I found it on the Saturday before it came out. So I put in work for like 2-3 days and like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. reading that book because it's a chonky book. It's like 500 some pages. It's a beast and it's dense. Like, oh my God, for a young adult novel, like, wow. But yeah, I do want to write a spoiler review for the site. So look forward to that coming somewhat soon. Hopefully we'll get to it this weekend.
Probably,
we'll see.
Yes.
We'll see.
Tonight we're going to be talking about what's happening with this Ray movie. We mentioned it a little bit last week and talked just for a few minutes about, some of the negative, stuff that's out there on, is this movie even going to happen? There's like some stuff from World of Real saying that they might end up scrapping this movie if they feel like the audience isn't there. And I think that kind of segues us into like one of our first topics of the evening. And that is this Variety article that came out today, basically saying that studios are going to start doing like these super fan focus groups for projects and saying, hey, for this movie, are fans going to appreciate this? Are they going to gravitate towards this? Or do we need to stop and move away and, move on to something else that they might, quote unquote, enjoy? I want to get your thoughts on this tonight because frankly this is terrifying. Like, this just from a artistic expression and freedom standpoint, like, this terrifies me. I don't like what qualifies a super fan and like or like a fan of something. Just putting that into a focus group, this just seems like a really dangerous road to go on, not just for Star Wars but for any of the major franchise fandoms out there. Miguel, what was like, do you have like a first impression after just seeing that? And I know we've sat with it for a few hours now.
I mean, to be honest, my first impression was that this is probably not going to affect Star Wars immediately. I just don't think that this is one that they will be that Star Wars will be using this strategy. I'm not sure. Like, maybe I'm wrong here because between Last Jedi and Acolyte, there's definitely been some backlash.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, but still, I could see this. Like, I think Marvel, for example, is more prone for this because that studio is less artistic centric. Let's say that they are more like there are these quotes about from executives saying, we're actually directing the movies. Where directors are pretty much like puppets for whatever Faggy wants to do and so on. I think Star Wars in general tends to give creatives a bit more leeway. It's true that there's Filoni there now who is like running the show and at least creatively, but still, I don't think they're going to use whatever focus group says as their North Star. Like, they may focus test some idea, but I'm not sure that it's going to affect it severely. I think the article may be a bit overblown, I think.
Okay. Well, Nate, do you kind of share that sentiment, or are you like going down the rabbit hole even more on this?
I mean, I didn't fully read the article yet. I will tonight, probably after the show. But my immediate reaction is kind of on the same lines as Miguel. I mean, studios and they looking for feedback all the time. In things as simple as test screenings, they invite people over, get people's feedback, and try and fix up their movies and whatnot. So
Right.
so they're already looking for outside influence at certain times. Test screenings aren't obviously for every single movie, but that's just one example of studios already having some kind of control or some kind of, I don't know what the word is there, but as far as like super fan focus groups, if that's what we're going to call them, yeah, it's definitely not something that I think. At the end of the day, corporations and these big movie and television studios think they know better. To put it simply, so they
Right.
will take in what these focus groups may say, but I also don't see them necessarily, using that as their North Star. Like as Miguel said, I think it's a good way to put it. Yeah, I just definitely something to keep an eye on. There's certain voices in fandom that aren't worth listening to. And that's obviously the big concern. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we'll have to see what comes of it, if anything.
You have like fandom voices that aren't worth listening to, but in any fandom, like where do they, I guess
Yeah.
I'm curious, like where do you draw in people to have like a focus group? What does that even look like when you think about different franchises and diversity of fans
I
that
mean, at the same
exist?
time, like the whole point is to get a whole variety of voices. So I do understand the idea behind it, but it's tricky. We'll have to see what comes of it, if anything. I mean, a lot of times these type of stories come out and we just forget about them because they happen so behind closed doors
Right.
that
But
it just
it's also just interesting. This comes out the same day that the Hollywood Reporter does its whole like, is Disney bad at Star Wars bit? And there are people, we have reports saying like, this has come out. Disney can't make Star Wars anymore. Obviously Star Wars, and we were talking just even before the show about how it's weird how fast the brand of Star Wars has just rapidly declined in the last couple of years because, I said this before. I remember not that long ago feeling like I was in the golden age of Star Wars where you were riding high off the Force Awakens in 2015. We're heading into Rogue One, which was a big success. And then Last Jedi happens. And I still felt like even though Last Jedi happened and Solo disappointed right after, just the fact that The Mandalorian came out in 2019 and was such a massive success, I felt like we're fine. Like everything is great still among Star Wars because Rise of Skywalker still grossed $1 billion at the box office, even if it wasn't necessarily critically received well. But now I'm sitting here and I'm like genuinely wondering, and maybe it's just because all we've had is TV, but I'm sitting here wondering, and we're going to talk about this Rey movie tonight. I'm just wondering, like, what does a successful Star Wars run look like? Like how do you recover the parts of the fandom or recover like the brand of Star Wars again? And I guess it has to just be a major film hit at this point. And the Mando and Grogu movie is the next one. And fingers crossed. I don't know if that's going to be it. I think the movie that we're talking about tonight was intended to be that, but at this point, we don't know if that's going to happen. It's like how do we even recover from this point? Is I guess what I'm curious about after reading all of this. It seems like negativity is around the corner everywhere you turn right now.
Yeah, and jumping off and kind of looping those two ideas together, it's so negative right now, partly because of the state of fandom, but in terms of Star Wars, has anything, and I don't want to get into a discussion on the quality of various things, but nothing besides that some like Andor is, or Andor, or maybe season 2 of The Mandalorian or whatnot, is beloved by everybody. And so I think there has to be just a consistent basis of quality, and there's just, I don't know. Star Wars television, just I've talked about before, and the show as there's just something missing with Star Wars television. The magic just isn't quite there. Star Wars has always been on the big screen, so a big hit movie will definitely help. Mando and Grogu has to be good. If it's not, I fear for Star Wars.
I agree, just in the sense of, but I with the Andor comment though, like I don't want to push back on that because I think it's for everyone who watched Andor in its entirety. I think really enjoyed it. I just think the number of Star Wars fans that did watch Andor in its entirety is pretty small, and it's that's not necessarily their mass appeal show. It's like their prestige Disney Plus show in a sense.
Agree.
And so I like wonder like, the audience is there for that. Like Mando season 1 and 2 feels like the bread and butter.
When you like put it into like the W column and the L column, Andor is firmly in the W column. Can we agree on that one at least?
Yeah.
Whereas like Ahsoka kind of like bridges the middle gap. Acolyte sadly in the L column, and Ahsoka because it's getting season 2, you could probably put it in the W column, but there's still a lot of debate over the quality of that show and other things as well. So I don't know. It's definitely a complicated topic for sure.
I would love to give your thoughts on this comment, Miguel, from Linda, who says, "I hate when people put out so much negativity before a movie is even made. The script isn't even written yet. I was looking forward to seeing what Ray was going to do after the last movie." And I want to get your thoughts on this, Miguel. One, because we're both kind of, this is like the movie we're most looking forward to of all of the features that are
Yeah.
supposedly in the works. But also because I don't think that, like, I know Nate is, he's everywhere on Twitter. Like he's all in the weeds, but I know that you're more maybe like, I guess like the past more passive in terms of your
Oh yeah.
social media like consumption. So do you even feel like the negativity that persists around some of like this movie and like some of the like negativity that's out there for this? Are you seeing that from a more just casual online perspective, or are you like removed enough from that where it's like, oh, I didn't realize there were that many people that are trying to, cause a stir with this?
I mean, um, it's a complicated question because it's not isolated, right? Because we know the context of this character being in three movies and basically the last two being at least controversial. I love TLJ. I'm not a fan of Rise of Skywalker, and I don't think many people are. And by that, because of that, I think many people are dreading this new movie. I don't think many. I don't think there are as many people interested in Ray as probably Disney would like to be.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I do think there is enough room and enough people interested in the movie, at least casually, and also some of the hardcores to make this movie a success. Should it happen? But yeah, again, like between the negativity driving algorithms today and the fact that most people that engage in these kind of conversations are usually very plugged in, and uh, I do think that they live in a bubble, and I that's also why I don't think this idea of focus
Mm-hmm.
groups would work.
Right.
Um, in general, I think it's a bit overstated
Mm-hmm.
how much negativity there is towards this. I do think, however, that if this movie comes out this December, it will not gross $1 billion like Rise of Skywalker did. I do think that
Mm-hmm.
there's whether it's around the character or whether it's around the Star Wars brands in general, there is some negativity that is not going away anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's why that the next several months are going to be like a really healthy Star Wars detox for the most part. Like Skeleton
Yeah,
Crew is coming out, and then there's like, I would say, a smaller but growing number of Andor fans that are going to just absolutely eat up season 2, and then we're going to chill until Mando and Grogu comes out. As far as we know right now, like, they might come out with some animated projects, I'm sure, with it, but in the next time. But as far as we know, we're taking like a chill pill for a little while.
I mean,
And
listen,
go for it.
no disrespect, but Skeleton Crew should be a vanilla show. Should
Mm-hmm.
be absolutely harmless, should be
Yep.
exactly what it wants to be, take no risks, take no
Yep.
chances of any
Mm-hmm.
kind, just straight adventure. Like,
Yep. Let's go.
if
I
people
can't
want to
wait
plug
for it.
in, that's fine. If they don't,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine as well. Just be as forgettable as you can be, and also like not as much, and be enjoyable. Like
Yeah.
it
Yep.
cannot stick out.
Yep. I want it to be that kind of like Bad Batch type of show where
Yeah,
people who love it, but it's not like,
No
but
one's
but
like,
but
no
yeah,
one's getting on YouTube going like, this is why
yeah.
the Bad Batch is the worst Star
We
Wars that's
need
ever come
zero
out.
controversy
yeah.
with
Mm-hmm.
this thing. So just be a solid little show
Mm-hmm.
that people
Yeah.
can just enjoy. Yeah,
And
yeah, I
because
definitely agree, and I
because
think
I
it
think
will be.
and I think that like there is a lot of like negativity like that's brewing and has brewed for this Ray movie. But I do think that, like you said, there's so much there are plenty of Rey fans out there that are invested, plus the hardcore Star Wars fans that would go see any Star Wars movie out there. And it really just comes down to if we get, and I don't want to, you know, I like The Rise of Skywalker just because I like Star Wars. Like there's aspects of it I love, but it's one of my least favorite, of the movies. If we get a story that's the quality of Rise of Skywalker coupled with everything else going on with this movie, it's not going to perform well, I don't think, no matter when it comes out. But if we were to, even with some of the like negativity that exists, if we get just a really quality, like excellent story with Rey, I think that would absolutely be able to rake in normal Star Wars feature film numbers, just because I think the excitement level for Rey that's diminished would easily go away if they word of mouth is, hey, this is a great Star Wars story, and Rey is like the person of that. I don't think people are anti-Rey. I think they're more anti like the direction of the Star Wars saga like story and like where it went. So if like this were to like be just a really quality story, I think that we're gonna see like anti-Rey sentiment just kind of mostly dissipate, because people are gonna be like, epic Star Wars story, like I'm there.
I don't know. Honestly, like all of this is very complicated because we are basing this on anecdotal experience, and then the numbers tell us a very different story, and then there's more numbers that tell even a different story from the previous ones. I'm not feeling it for this movie, box office wise. At this moment, I don't think it would cross 650 million, to be honest.
I agree at this moment, but I'm trying to judge it from they're going to do what they need to like get this movie off the ground, and that's if they have to do the Mando Grogu movie first, and like then we're gonna do the Dawn of the Jedi, like whatever. I'm just saying I think that Rey has enough clout as a character where if the story is right and they nail the story like they need to, which like we've talked before, like the villain might be the most important part of that movie. If they nail that part, I don't think that it matters. The negativity would matter as much, because I think that people in their soul like are craving like a Star Wars cinematic experience, and I don't think it'd be too difficult to draw them back into that, especially if word of mouth is good. I think what's killed Star Wars a lot lately is just the negative word of mouth that goes around for a lot of these projects, and just people going in with like a bad taste in their mouth already because you can't escape it. If we can escape some of that negativity, like the first few weeks that the movie is out and people are, giving relatively like positive vibes from it, I think more people will be like, oh, let's go. I'm back in maybe. But again, this is all a couple of years out, and there's clearly a lot of question marks right now about this. And you guys are much more in the know of like the daily like news that comes out, because you guys you're just on it way more than I am. I'm usually like playing catch up to these things over like during the week. And so I'm really curious from you guys. Last week, I know Miguel wrote about this in his Sunday piece a couple weeks ago about how there's some reporting out there that Lucasfilm's wondering if this is even like a movie to move forward with. Obviously, it seems like there's no final script that's been, established upon yet. And we don't even know what, Daisy has to say about all of this really. And so I'm coming to you guys just wondering, can you piece that puzzle together a little bit? Because I feel like there's other people like me that maybe have heard tidbits, but aren't really sure what to believe or what to think right now in regards to this movie.
Nate, do you wanna go?
Or... honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat as Tyler. I'm just kind of wondering what's going on, because we haven't really heard anything official besides Stephen Knight coming on to take a crack at the scripts since the movie's announcements. I'm still of the mind that this movie can only come out when Star Wars has done a little bit of rehab. And I think that's kind of why they are taking their time with it. And thankfully they are.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I just wonder if it is worth taking the
Mhm.
risk. Because yeah, of all things we've talked about and all the various things. So I'm just curious for the next bit of official information.
Mhm.
I don't really go down the rumor mill all that often, so because it's such a treacherous
Right.
place of a whole lot of nonsense that comes out. So, um,
But I think there's a
yeah, like
difference between like taking your time on
yeah,
this project versus like, are we taking our time because we can't find a foothold,
yeah, and
to move up the ladder? I'm
and
like, I
that's what
think
I'm
that's
wondering
more,
because every
where do
time
we,
Daisy
where we
Ridley
at?
does an interview, it sounds like she's Ryan Johnsoning it. She's sounding more less and less confident that this thing's going to actually happen. So I'm starting to get a little bit worried that this script hasn't even been turned in for a draft, much less ready to shoot by next year, because that's what they're saying. But we'll see. Yeah, I don't know.
Because we're what, come next Celebration, if we haven't heard any sort of major developments from this film, which it's trending towards not at this point. And I know Miguel thinks we're going to get another writer attached before the year is over. So I would love to hear more about that. But we'll be a year removed from them parading Daisy on stage, declaring her being back as Rey, and having the director up there saying, this is, with the future of Star Wars movies. And we'll be almost a year removed from that, with honestly, like it feels like we're further removed from that movie being made than we were a year ago, and that is startling.
That is true, and even considering 1 year ago we were on a strike, so
The strike kind of threw a whole lot of things out of the water. So
Of
that
course.
is worth considering. That
I
is
do
worth
think that
considering
this
in this.
I do think that the strike killed a lot of momentum on this movie, because Steven Knight was writing very promptly before the strike, and he was forced to stop. And then by the time he got back to work, it was like, yeah, remember that movie we were gonna do? Forget about it. We're gonna do Mando and Grogu over here. And yeah, he still got like room to write, and he has submitted multiple drafts by now. It's just from the looks of it, it looks like Lucasfilm isn't very happy about it. So um, whatever it is, like whether it's the writing that's not very good, whether it is that Lucasfilm went in a different direction, which we know has happened before with this project because of Damon Lindelof being attached before, and the subsequently dropping out and stuff. I just
Can we talk about that for a minute? Just
hold on,
because
hold on.
yeah, okay.
I mean, the point is that at one point, Steven Knight basically decided to just move on, and he's now in Birmingham shooting the Peaky Blinders movie, which started this Monday. And like, yeah, I assume that at this point the project has been on hold for a month and a half. Maybe not because for no other reason that they just don't have a project, a writer working on it at this moment. Because Steven Knight, who is as far as we know, the sole writer on the project.
Yeah, but maybe all Lucasfilm's chips are right now on Mando and Grogu, and
That is
making
true,
sure that
yeah.
is as good as possible, and saying Rey movie can resume after that is done with principal production. So maybe that's I don't know.
That is true, but you still always want to have some backup option, because if Mando and Grogu is great, then people are gonna be. If Mando and Grogu is great, people are gonna be, when is the next Star Wars movie, and you want them.
Yeah,
you want to hit them with one 6 months later. If it's bad, you want to hit them with another one just to make up for it. So
they have the 2026 release. It's like you could have Mando and Grogu
coming
in
out
theaters
that year still, so they gotta have something somewhat.
You could have the trailer. You could have like a teaser trailer playing in theaters for the next Star Wars movie while people are seated for Mando Grogu. And you do that, or you could even, they could do like a special, at the end of the movie, like, and here's a look at the 2026 Star Wars. Like, if that movie is a success, you're already generating buzz for the next one, like Miguel says. But my question is this. So obviously Lindelof was involved and he had to have submitted multiple like drafts for this movie. And they parted ways because it's not the direction that they wanted to go with this movie. My thought would be that when they brought Stephen Knight in, that they knew kind of like, hey, this is the direction that we're trying to go with this. He was under that understanding. He's going to write this. So why is it that we're still having problems finding the direction for the movie? That just makes it seem like they don't know what direction they really want after all. Like, that's the weird thing for me that I don't understand as much.
I don't know this for a fact. I'm just spitballing that maybe they rethought everything during the strike. It was 6 months where nobody was working, and maybe they just thought, so what if instead of doing this storyline with Ray, we do this other one? And Stephen Knight comes back and he's like, no, I signed up for the first one, so I'm gonna do that one, and that's it. Or maybe, you know, they're still on the same page, but they haven't been able to book something like find a proper date. Maybe they have a script that is ready, but they still, I don't think they have a script that is ready, because Daisy has said that she still hasn't, well, at least as of a few months ago, she hadn't read it, which was a bit weird. But still, there's also to consider Daisy's health. Like, we know she is a bit sick. How does that factor into the equation? Is she thinking possibly about backing out? She hasn't said as much, but perhaps that's behind closed doors. Like, there are many factors here. Then there's the director. What's going on with the director? She hasn't signed up for anything else to direct in Hollywood, as far as I've read. So
I don't think so.
Is that because she's solely focused on this movie? Is that because she's actually not that good and they just can't find her something else to work on? And maybe Lucasfilm is also rethinking it on that front. Again, spitballing based on thinner, but you know, like, there are so many possibilities here that it's just impossible for me to answer that. Why is this movie? Why can't they crack it? Because it could be many different reasons.
Because of whatever setbacks there are. Because for the longest time, I think we felt that, the 2026, Mando and Grogu in May, and then if they want to hold that December date, Daisy's movie in December. Right now, it feels like that's not going to happen. But do you think they're going to hold that 2026 movie slot in December, or do you think it's going to be 2027 movie slot then?
Yeah, I think they're going to shift. Yeah. I mean, this is another whole other conversation, but there's also the fact that there are two dates in May that are very are clashing with each other, because we have Avengers, what is 5? Whatever number. There's an Avengers movie opening in May, and 3 weeks later there's a Star Wars movie. Like, the last time that happened was terrible for Star Wars, and for no other reason that Disney doesn't have unlimited marketing resources, so they have to put most of their chips in one basket. And
that'd be wild.
Luke says he can't make it into the show tonight, but still has to pop in with a comment here and there. And they're holding 26.
Look, I saw you on Discord. You were playing Star Wars Battlefront. I saw you. Luke is afraid because this was not going to be a pleasant conversation, and he didn't want to be a part of a non-positive conversation.
He said I'm not. He's actually playing with Ray on Star Wars Battlefront 2 right now, because he's like,
awesome to play with on Battlefront.
I'm just gonna go. He's like, I'm gonna go be the light right now, and I'm going to go slay stormtroopers with Ray on Battlefront 2, because I don't want to have the hard talk this week. Oh my gosh, that's the most I've laughed all day since the kid came up to me and asked me to tie his shoe, and I said, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yes." He's 14 years old. It's crazy. Anyway, so back to like December, like, holding these dates or whatever. So we're not moving. If we're not moving forward with like a December movie, like they've pretty much, you said like we have Avengers coming out right then, and we saw what happened the last time a Star Wars movie that wasn't, like a saga type film, like this major, thing came out right after an Avengers movie. Is there, and they've already said it's May. There's no way they're pushing that back to December at this point. You think? Like there's no way that
No, I
they're
don't
gonna
think
push
so.
that back. They're
No,
just
there
gonna
are
ride. They're gonna ride
there's
that
too
out.
much
Would it be
time.
possible that Avengers moves into that December
Yep.
spot then?
No,
Because they haven't.
maybe they push it back another year.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's possible. I could see that because of the size of that movie and what it's
Yeah.
going to be.
I mean,
like, it's starting to
think
come
about
together
this.
at Comic-Con, so I don't know. Go ahead, Miguel.
Think about this. Avengers 5 starts shooting next spring. Okay. It's gonna come out supposedly 3 weeks before Mando and Grogu. By the time Avengers starts shooting, Mando and Grogu will have been in post-production for at least 6 months. It makes no sense. Avengers is much bigger in scale, in need of visual effects, in need of post-production, in need of reshoots probably, because there are probably going to be many actors in that movie that are not going to make it into the principal photography. It's just a massive film. The last Avengers, last time we had this like back-to-back Avengers movies, it was Infinity War and Endgame. Infinity War came out in May 2018. They started shooting it in January 2017. But that was like 2017 when there wasn't this huge bottlenecks in post-production
Didn't they shoot
houses.
Infinity War and Endgame back to back? Is that
Yes,
right?
but they started like Infinity War first, and
It was like a
once they
whole
were-
like year-long shoot plus.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah. But like I think they did go in order where they started with Infinity War first. They stopped for like a week, and then they went to Endgame. But whatever, like it's still like they shot it within like 12 to 15 months of it coming out. I don't think they can do that now. And just think about like I'm still baffled by the fact that Mando and Grogu is like shooting now when it's not coming out for another 2 years, especially for a movie that is shooting in the volume where they have most of the visual effects done pre-shoot. Like it's not that like they need another year to polish the film.
Are they going to have any like temple guards from the Jedi Temple just standing over the vault that film is going to be kept in for about a year until it comes out? Because they're going to finish it so soon. It's just going to sit there, and we just have some temple guards just hanging out there. Like, all right, make sure no one accidentally hits the delete button today.
Yeah, like Toy Story 2.
Oh man,
what
a butterfly effect that would have been.
Yeah, my theory for a long time was that they were gonna push it up, but I guess Avatar is not moving from December, so they're just gonna have to like stick to it. I mean, I guess they have more stuff to work on. Like they have Ahsoka shooting next year. I don't know, but it's still very weird. I do think that there
hope for a Mangold movie coming out in 27 then, or
possibly.
would it be, or do you think that 27 would just be the Filoni's movie and that's like the only one, and then we're looking, because if we're pushed the Rey movie back, they don't have 2 Star Wars slots right now, I don't think, for 27. It's just, I think everything's very interesting, because if Avengers moves back a year and you're moving a Star Wars movie back a year, like, are you going to do a May Avengers again, December Star Wars, and then where does the movie lie?
Do you know how many dates has Disney reserved in 2027? I don't know the number either.
Frozen 2, like Frozen 3.
It's insane. Disney,
I know
like,
Frozen 3 is coming out in
like the next 5 years, like one movie a month. So they have.
If I see Frozen 3 before I see the Rey movie, I'm going to cry, which I probably will. But I'm going to cry.
Will, yeah.
I'm going to cry. It's not.
You're going to be crying. I'm sorry. You're going to be crying on that.
I know. I'm not happy about this. Linda, hold on. We're gonna get you the Star Wars cinematic experiences. Like, we'll find a way. Like, I'll march down. I'm over here in Orlando. I'll march down to some sort of Disney property headquarters and see if I can knock on the door politely and see if I can speak to someone about this for you, Linda. Like, we're gonna make this happen. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep, I guess, but unfortunately. So any final like comments on this Ray stuff, like movies in general, like that we should be aware of? Because something positive maybe to end this on a positive note with this.
I mean, my main,
Just for
I do
Luke,
think,
he's probably trembling right now listening. So Luke can be
and you
entering
did
into a better
talk
spot.
about this last week. I do think that just for the fact of saving face, they will try to make this movie as hard as possible, just because they made such a big deal of putting Daisy on that stage last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was their big announcement. That was, and you said, like, if they cancel Dawn of the Jedi, that's fine, and that's because they made such a huge deal of on focusing on this movie and saying it was going to be the next one, and it was going to star Daisy Ridley, who
Mm-hmm.
is like beloved to most of the fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And just because of that, I do think that they will stick to their guns. But there's still room for changes, as we have seen with Lucasfilm over and over and over again. What are those changes possibly? Could be James Mangold saying, after a complete unknown opens later this year, saying, I'm ready to do Star Wars now, and maybe he starts shooting mid next year because they already have another writer. Maybe it's Sean Levy, who is basically jobless at this point. He's shooting Stranger Things, but what is he doing next? We don't know. Could be Star Wars. Maybe it's Lucasfilm hiring another writer for the Bray movie, which is possibly because maybe they don't want to lose that momentum, and maybe they want a big announcement for next year's celebration.
Mm-hmm.
But, by the way, I do think that something will happen before Christmas. I do think that some decision will be made on the future of this project,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps something like Star Wars before Christmas, before the end of the year, so that they actually have some sort of direction that they want to start the year with.
Mm-hmm. Do we think that a possible, Kathleen Kennedy not being in charge anymore could also completely shift up the momentum built with some of
No.
these movies? Do you think that could have any okay, we might move with this one first or shift to a different direction? Or do you think this is the plan, this is in place, and the people that would be promoted to those positions are also in line with that vision?
Maybe I'm mistaken on this, and don't quote me, but I'm right now I'm thinking of Filoni as the de facto leader of Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy is still at her job, but I don't think that she is making decisions as she was making in 2018 or 2019. I do think that Filoni is much more in charge, possibly than we think. I don't think that he is waiting for the day she leaves to start canceling projects.
Right. Nate, if you had to pick a movie that you were more excited for, because I don't think I've asked you that question yet, is which of these movies that are upcoming that we know of possibly being in the works, is there one that you're leaning into a little bit more? I really hope this one is the one that is amazing. I'm most excited to go see that one in theaters. Or
And why is it Lando?
Why is it Lando? Unfortunately, it's not Lando. I wish I could say, because I do like Donald Glover's work, but
Lando, a smuggler.
Honestly, as much as I love ancient Star Wars history and the idea of James Mangold going back that far would be awesome, I would love for this Rey movie to come out and be as good as it possibly can be, because I love seeing the story go forward and go into new directions. And Mangold's movie does do that, but there's something about just going beyond the Skywalkers and seeing what's out there. I don't know if you guys ever read the Legends comic Star Wars Legacy that goes 100 or some years after the movies, and we have Luke Skywalker's grandkids and whatnot, and it's just this really cool different story. So I just really would like to see this movie come to fruition, and if the story is good, I mean, most people are going to be fine with it, like you said, Tyler, earlier. I mean, if the story is good, that will make a lot of people shut up, for lack of a better phrase. And as Miguel said, and I agree that through hell or high water, I can't see Lucasfilm axing this film. They're too prideful. They've put in too much effort into the Rey character over the years to just shelve her. And they have to look at the facts that the sequel trilogy, while divisive, was ultimately profitable for them. So there's still a chance that this movie is successful on those terms as well. So while it is bleak and the road ahead is very murky and dark, and I don't know what it's going to look like in 6 months from now when we get to possibly shooting this thing. You still got to have hope. I mean, that's Star Wars. You got to believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I hope for the best for this movie. And I think if they get the right team behind it, which I do think they might need to find some I don't know. Like, there's a lot of questions surrounding this thing. So I have my fingers crossed, because this is the movie I want good things for. Like, I want to have good conversations about Rey that don't bring up such ridiculous things like Mary Sue for once. I'm so sick of those things. But yeah, so those are my thoughts, and I'm sticking to it.
My long-held belief since this movie got announced in April was that the biggest thing for this movie would be if, we had obviously a clear vision, but we had Daisy come on stage joined by John Boyega at some point, or like just a video with the two of them where he says that he's coming back.
That would go a long way to bring goodwill to this movie, John Boyega.
I think if we want good vibes and just the good time, I feel like good times returning to Star Wars. I just think there would be so much like positivity, because as negative as some of the Rey detractors can be, I think there is a massive wave of Rey supporters, but there's an even more massive wave of people that want to see John Boyega back as Finn, like as a Jedi, and to see that fulfilled. So if you put those two groups together, I think that goes a long ways towards really pushing this thing, over the top with really good momentum when they would go into like, pre-production and shooting and things. So I hope that happens. I think there's still hope. Miguel keeps telling me there's still hope for that. And I guess the longer that I think the longer that this project keeps getting delayed for things, like the more likely it is that he might be able to be pulled in, because there's just more time for them to, his schedule to clear up, or more time for them to write the story in a different way. I will say, Tyler, you missed the Monday pod about Rebels. If you love Rebels, well, Luke and I talked about Rebels for almost 2 hours on Monday.
I saw that. I'm like, I don't have 2 hours, man. God,
that's the point. You put it on. We go through each season. So you put it on. You listen to season 1. You come back to it. We listen, go through season 2. Put it back. 3, 4. It's a good time. It was a full Rebels fan fest. What is your favorite Rebels? Like, do you guys like Rebels? Like, are you big Rebels fans? Or
it's my favorite thing. Rebels is my favorite thing Disney has done with Star Wars. So yes, I'm a big Rebels guy.
It's a 10-year anniversary today.
Yep.
Yes.
Rebels is the thing that Rebels is so near and dear to my heart. Like, yeah, I love that show.
Who in that show is what like really draws you in, or is it the whole shebang, or is there one character that like stands out?
It's Kanan. It's Kanan for me. And Kanan is also kind of the guy that got me really into the books and comics. The Kanan Last Padawan comic is awesome. It's like I was starting to figure out, all right, I'm getting back into Star Wars, and there's all these comics, but there's the main Star Wars and Darth Vader lines are so big and confusing, and they cross over. But then there's this tiny little Kanan comic that is like, I'll check it out after I check out Rebels, and then I watch Rebels, and it's like, and I go back to that comic, and it's like, oh my god, this is great. So yeah, so Rebels, Kanan, just my jam. They mean so much to me.
Miguel, do you like Rebels? Like, have you?
Yeah, of course. Um, as in favorite Rebels episode, end of season 2.
Oh yeah,
Twilight of the
Twilight and the
Apprentice.
Apprentice.
No discussion there. I do enjoy the finale, especially couple episodes before with well, actually the last 5 or 6 episodes of Rebels are just spectacular. But yeah, it's mostly the Twilight of the Apprentice that really did it for me.
I don't know
It's
how
not.
long Luke and I spent on that episode. Those 2 episodes in particular, we spent a long time on that part. Season 2 is probably the most we discussed of anything.
Yeah, I mean it is one of the seasons that gives leaves a lot of room for discussion. Certainly, like that's actually how I grew to love Ahsoka. I didn't watch Clone Wars first. I saw her in Rebels first.
Oh wow! See, I was so surprised when she like showed up in. I was like, oh Fulcrum, like oh my goodness, and then she actually shows up. It was incredible. I absolutely love that show. Luke's like that's his favorite Star Wars thing, like period, pretty much. So I absolutely it was a fun time to be able for the two of us to sit and just like let's just talk about like our favorites, themes, our favorite episodes. We just went like season by season. Let's talk about some of the important moments from the show. So we've been on here for almost an hour, and so we're gonna wrap it up here pretty soon. But I did want to like leave off on one little thing because it is like the 10-year anniversary of Rebels. Zeb is in the Mando and Grogu trailer. So do you think that there will be any other Rebels characters that pop up in the Mando and Grogu movie besides Zeb? Obviously, Ahsoka season 1 introduced, Hera, Sabine, and Ezra and Chopper, into live action. So they are out there. I don't expect to see Sabine being on the other side of the galaxy, but do you think we might see some of the others? As far as we know, Rex is still out there, or any other like side characters from Rebels, maybe like a Hondo still out there, anything like that. Do you think we could see anyone in the Mando and Grogu movie? No, you're saying no.
Yeah.
You're saying we're completely Rebels free.
No,
Not even like a random like what what about Ketsu, Onyo, and Melch? Some of our
I
good
don't think
friends.
that counts.
It's possible, but I don't know. I don't know if
If
I
it's
need
a
it. I don't
if
need
it's
it.
a Rebels character that appears in one of Josh's character spotlight pieces from Fridays, doesn't count. Has to be one of the main characters.
So what if so I saw this like meme a while back, and it was just basically like the Baby Yoda meme is so funny because if Ezra actually met Grogu in real life, he would probably be like, Baby Yoda? Like what? Like he would actually say Baby Yoda to Grogu if he met him. And so I think that would like I don't think you can't do that anymore because it would just be too like on the nose for the Baby Yoda memes and everything and the name.
But
But it would be
that can happen in Filoni's movie. I don't think that's gonna happen in Mando and Grogu.
Yeah, it depends on what the
right.
story is for some of these other characters. Because if it's meant as like following up on Thrawn and all this stuff, which I don't know if it is,
No, probably not.
yeah, I don't know if I don't think so either.
Mhm.
Then, but if it is, then obviously the chances go up because Hera and Ezra were just involved with Ahsoka and whatnot. So it'll depend on the story, but I do think they intend for this to be its own thing because
I agree.
We'll see.
The only one I think that makes the most sense would be if they found someone to play Callus, just because of like
Callus
if Zeb's
would be
in
really
it.
Cool.
Like Callus seems
would
like
be
an
cool.
easy one to put in just because of him and Zeb's relationship at the end of Rebels, and so if they're still friends and communicating, that might be an easy one to slide in there, and that'd be kind of a cool one to put in.
I mean, I was thinking Hera could be easy as well. I know she's busy finding Ahsoka again, but like
Hera, I think would make sense because she's so involved.
If Zeb is there, who is in the show as a New Republic official, having Hera there would make sense.
Yeah, that's true. I think I'm sure Carson Teva is going to show up and
100%
at some point and do his little. I don't think it's confirmed yet.
Okay.
I
Wasn't
don't
he
think
in
they've
it?
confirmed anything
I had
outside
to
of.
rewatch the trailer because I could have swore
I
he was in the
don't. I don't
trailer,
think
but
he's
maybe
in
I'm
it.
wrong.
But also, I'm watching on
Maybe
my
he's not.
blurry,
Yeah,
recording of someone's recording. So I don't think. And as far as characters, like people confirmed, as far as I know, it's just obviously Mando and like Din Djarin, Grogu,
yeah.
and then what's her face is going to be in it as well.
Grogu.
Sigourney
No.
Weaver.
Yeah. So my goodness, I was like blanking. Like I think that's all we have.
According to
confirmed.
IMDb, the only confirmed cast is Pedro and Sigourney. So,
Yeah.
and obviously since Zeb is, we can probably assume Steve Bloom as well. But
and Grogu because he's real.
I mean, Seb did sound like Steve Bloom in the trailer, so
I think he voiced it. I think he was credited with him in Mando season 3, right?
Yeah,
like
he was.
so. Yeah. So
I
I'm
mean,
sure
Steve
that-
Bloom is the easiest guy in the world
Mhm.
to cast. Like he has like 1,000 credits. So
yeah.
I don't think they'll have any trouble getting him to
Mhm.
come back for the movie.
Mhm. Well, Nate, do you want to go ahead and tell everyone about your Sunday piece? Do you have an idea of what you're going to be writing about this weekend?
I'm writing nothing on Sunday.
Did I say Nate?
Yeah.
So, Nate, you have nothing that you're writing. So, Miguel, please tell us about what you're writing, if you're writing anything.
Haven't fully decided yet, but it's probably going to be this Variety article about the focus groups and stuff. I think that leads to a lengthy discussion that we maybe touched on at the beginning of the show, but I think it's worth revisiting and
Mhm.
really exploring. Unless something huge pops up tomorrow, that would probably be it. But again, I haven't written it yet, so keep an eye out on Sunday afternoon / evening for that.
Nate, any other big reviews coming out soon?
I might be writing some comic reviews on Sunday, but those won't come out until Tuesday or Wednesday. Next week there is a trio of High Republic comics coming from Dark Horse. We got Echoes of Fear #2. We got what's the other one? Saber for Hire #4, the finale of that miniseries. And then we got a new series, Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone #1. I believe Jay is tackling that one, but you'll see on that front. And also, I'll probably be writing up the Ewoks #1 review. That's also next week. So, as always, when it's busy in the when it's dead and silence in the film and television world of Star Wars, publishing never stops. It never stops.
Right.
It keeps the news going. It keeps the site alive. So we are not stopping. And as much as I would like some sleep, I can't. I can never sleep. There's always something. There's always something in the book and comic world.
And that is the reason why we now have Ewoks #1.
Ewoks #1.
But that's really the comic series that we didn't, that we deserve right now. Like that's the one, or maybe it's the one that we need. I don't know. I haven't read Ewoks #1.
Speaking of the comics, if you guys want to get in on the ground floor on a new era of comics, the Battle of Jakku Insurgency Rising #1 just came out this week. It's really solid. There's a lot of Easter eggs. There's even some Rebels Easter eggs in there. So definitely check that out if you want to get into some comics. It's a really interesting little peek into what immediately happens after Endor. And they're going to be just pumping those out over the next 4 months. So exciting times in comics for sure. So
check that out, but also check out Nate's comic guide that he wrote, where he basically, if you're curious about where to jump in with Star Wars comics, like you're not quite sure where to start, or maybe you read for a while and you got lost because there is so much going on. Nate basically has, the holy grail of comic guides that's sitting there ready for you. Like it is a truly wonderful resource. So make sure you check that out on our Star Wars Newsnet page. I believe that, is it still pinned to the Twitter account? I think it's pinned at the top of our Twitter account right now. So you can go and check that out. It's a wonderful resource for you. Please go and look at that.
Before we move on, Luke just put in the chat. I don't know if he's talking Mando and Grogu or comics, but this Nora Wexley, Wedge Antilles, and Admiral Sloan thing. I would love to see Admiral Sloan in Mando and Grogu. I think she would be an awesome little Easter egg for the movie. I think she'd be a great little something. So I'm hoping for some more Admiral Sloan somewhere, please. I love that character. Give me Admiral Sloan.
Yes, I'm not super familiar with Admiral Sloan, so I can't be like the one that's sitting here like championing. But the little I do know of Admiral Sloan, like I'm a fan. Like, give me more just bad Imperial like leaders. Like, anytime you get a good bad Imperial leader, it's fantastic.
But she's not just bad. You understand every
right.
single. She's an Imperial that you spend a lot of time with, so you understand why she wants to be that side, and she is interesting because she's most heavily featured in the Aftermath trilogy, and she's almost trying to will the Empire into becoming better, like that can actually be good for the galaxy and not this evil scourge. So she has so many layers to her, and then she ultimately is forced to become part of the First Order, but we've never seen her in that era, so I don't know what that looks like, and I'm just like, more, please. I love that character so much.
More. Make sure that you check out Star Wars Newsnet Live every Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. I will have the audio put on our Apple and Spotify channels tomorrow morning. So make sure you please subscribe to us on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a review there. Saturday, you can check out the Star Wars Timeline show, where Luke and I are going through every single piece of Star Wars canon material in the best order that we can. We are going to be doing the last episode of Young Jedi Adventure Season 1. This week, we've already recorded that. It comes out Saturday mornings. And then next week, we will be dropping Light of the Jedi. We've already recorded that. I'll be uploading that over the weekend to get that ready. So we'll be back into some books, but check out the Timeline show if you just want to sit back and have a fun conversation about a Star Wars canon piece. And then every Monday, you can check out our Monday podcast that we upload here on YouTube and also Apple and Spotify. This last week was the 10-year anniversary of Rebels Pod that Luke and I did, where we just gushed over, Rebels for a couple of hours. And can I put a link in the description? Absolutely, I can. Give me 1 second. But honestly, like this coming Monday for the Monday pod I was thinking about waiting and cherry picking some of whatever Miguel decided to write about, because I had a feeling that I wanted to do some. Let's see if this sends. That's for the Apple Podcasts, and I will get you the Spotify here. But I was obviously thinking about like trying to like cherry pick maybe a little bit of what you did, Miguel, just to have like a podcast discussion about it. So if you want to record something like that over the next few days, let me know. If not, I have two other plans. But if we can talk, of course. Everyone, please go read Tears of the Nameless here before we get out of here. I just want to say, that right there, because I'm going to go finish that book as soon as we get out of here. And I think it's going to, rock my world. So, everyone, thanks for joining us once again here. Hold on, there's an error right there. They're trying to fix something up on YouTube. Well, we'll see. All right, guys, thanks for hopping in. Let's see, Linda, if you want, you can, shoot us a message and we can get you those links, or just, look it up on Apple and Spotify. For whatever reason, it's not letting me put some comments in there right now. But thank you so much, everyone, for hopping in. We will see you soon for Light and Life. And remember, we are all the Republic.